We're busy that weekend, Valerie. Maybe next month. My mother's voice came through the phone with the same dismissive tone I had heard my entire life. I stood in my new apartment in Portland, Oregon, gazing out at the skyline I had spent 8 years working to afford, feeling my chest tighten. But Mom, I just bought my first place. I wanted everyone to see it, even if just for a few hours. Your father has a golf tournament, and your sister Bethany is showing a house to an important client. You know how real estate is. We'll come by when things settle down. Things never settled down. Not for them. Not when it came to me. My name is Valerie. I'm 35 years old and work as a nurse at Providence Portland Medical Center. For the last 8 years, I had worked double shifts, picked up holidays, covered for colleagues, and saved every penny I could from my paychecks. I lived in a cramped studio apartment with paper-thin walls, where I could hear my neighbor's television through the night. I drove a 15-year-old sedan that broke down more often than it ran. I wore scrubs I had mended 3 times over and ate ramen noodles more nights than I care to admit. But I did it. I finally did it. Last week, I closed on a beautiful 1-bedroom apartment on the 14th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Completely mine. No landlord, no mold in the bathroom, no upstairs neighbor stomping around at 2 a.m. Just my own space with hardwood floors, a kitchen with actual counter space, and that incredible view. I called everyone, my parents, my sister Bethany, my brother Trevor, even my cousin Janine, who I barely spoke to anymore. I planned a housewarming for Saturday afternoon. Nothing fancy, just appetizers, drinks, and a chance to show my family what I had accomplished. One by one, they all declined. I have a work thing, Trevor said. That's the weekend of the charity auction I'm organizing, Janine explained, though she'd never mentioned any auction before. Bethany was the worst. She laughed when I first told her about the apartment. You bought in that building, Valerie? Seriously? It's not even in a trendy neighborhood. I could have helped you find something with actual investment potential. My sister had always been like that. She became a real estate agent 5 years ago and suddenly acted like she was an expert on everything. Never mind that I had spent months researching, visiting open houses, and carefully calculating what I could afford. Never mind that this apartment was perfect for me. Bethany had opinions, and she never hesitated to share them. I ended the call with my mother and set my phone down on my new kitchen counter. The granite was cool beneath my palm. I looked around at the boxes still waiting to be unpacked, at the walls that needed decorating, at the space that should have felt like a celebration, but instead felt hollow. This wasn't new. This was the pattern of my entire life. Growing up, I was always the invisible child. Bethany was the golden daughter, the one with perfect grades and perfect friends. Trevor was the athletic son, the one my father bragged about at every barbecue. And I was just Valerie, the middle child who worked hard but never quite measured up. When I graduated nursing school, my parents threw Bethany a huge party for getting her real estate license. The same month, my graduation dinner was at a chain restaurant with a $50 gift card. When I got my first nursing job, Trevor announced his engagement. Suddenly, that was all anyone could talk about for 6 months. When I paid off my student loans last year, Bethany bought a new car, and my mother spent 3 weeks showing everyone photos of it. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was doing this for me, not for their approval. But standing in my empty apartment that Saturday, I realized how much I had wanted them to care. Just once, just for one afternoon. I spent the weekend alone, unpacking boxes and arranging furniture. I hung curtains. I assembled a bookshelf. I organized my tiny closet and folded my clothes with the kind of care I never bothered with in my old place. This was my home now, mine. Sunday evening, as the sun set over Portland, I stood by my window and watched the city lights begin to glow. The view was stunning. The skyline stretched out before me. Buildings lit up against the darkening sky, and I could see all the way to the river. I picked up my phone and took a photo. Just one picture of that perfect view with the city spread out below me. I posted it to social media with a simple caption, "Finally home." I didn't tag anyone. I didn't add details. I just shared that one image and set my phone aside. Within an hour, it started. My phone buzzed, then again, and again. I glanced at the screen and saw notifications flooding in. Comments, messages, phone calls, all from my family. I looked at my phone, then back out at the view. For 8 years, I had worked myself to exhaustion. For 8 years, I had heard every excuse about why they were too busy, too important, or too occupied with their own lives to show up for mine. I set my phone on silent and walked away. Let them wait. The calls kept coming all night. By Monday morning, I had 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from Bethany, 8 from Trevor, and even 3 from my father, who rarely called me at all. There were text messages piling up, each one more urgent than the last. I ignored them all and went to work. The hospital was busy that day, which suited me just fine. I needed the distraction. I checked vitals, administered medications, comforted anxious patients, and did all the things that made me good at my job. During my lunch break, I finally looked at my phone. The messages were almost amusing in their progression. My mother's first text was casual. Saw your post. Call me when you can. An hour later, Valerie, please call. We need to talk about your apartment. By midnight, this is ridiculous. Pick up your phone. Bethany's messages followed a similar pattern, though hers had an edge of professional interest. Is that the Westview building? I didn't know you were looking at high-rises. Call me. I have questions. Trevor's texts were shorter but more frequent. Nice view. Then, seriously, call mom. Then, what floor are you on? I put my phone away and finished my shift. That evening, I stopped at a furniture store and bought a new couch, a real one, not the second-hand futon I had been sleeping on for years. The salesman was friendly, and I found myself telling him about my new apartment, about the view, about how I had worked so hard to get here. He congratulated me like he meant it, and I felt a small surge of pride. When I got home, there was a voicemail from my mother. Valerie, I don't understand why you're not answering. Your father and I have been talking, and we'd love to come see your new place. Maybe this weekend. Call me back. I deleted it. The truth was, my family had never understood what my life was like. They didn't know about the double shifts or the times I picked up extra hours during the holidays so I could save an extra $200 a month. They didn't know I had worked Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving for 5 years straight. They didn't know about the 60-hour weeks or the exhaustion that seeped into my bones. They never asked. My mother and father lived comfortably in the suburbs in the same house where I grew up. My father managed a small accounting firm, and my mother volunteered at the country club. They were busy people, involved in their community, always organizing something or attending something, but they were busy with the things that mattered to them. Bethany had built a successful real estate career, or so she claimed. She sold homes to wealthy clients and posted photos of herself holding oversized checks at closings. She drove a luxury sedan, wore designer clothes, and talked constantly about her networking events and open houses. Trevor worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company. He traveled often, made decent money, and spent most of it on his hobbies. He had a boat he took out twice a year and a motorcycle he liked to show off at family gatherings. And then there was me, the nurse, the one with the practical job and the practical life. The one nobody worried about because I was stable, reliable, boring. When I was younger, I tried to get their attention. I joined clubs in high school. I volunteered. I kept my grades up. Nothing worked. Bethany was always prettier, more charming, more interesting. Trevor was always more fun, more athletic, more popular. I was just there, a shadow in the background of our family photos. By the time I started nursing school, I had stopped trying. I focused on my education, on building a career, on taking care of myself because nobody else was going to do it. And I told myself that was enough. But it wasn't. Not really. Deep down, I had still wanted them to notice. I wanted them to see that I was working hard, achieving things, building a life. I wanted them to be proud of me just once. That's why I invited them to my apartment. That's why it hurt so much when they all said no. Wednesday afternoon, my mother showed up at the hospital. I was at the nurse's station updating patient charts when I heard her voice at the reception desk. I'm looking for my daughter Valerie. She's a nurse here. I felt my stomach drop. I considered hiding in a supply closet, but the charge nurse had already spotted me and was waving my mother over. There she is, the charge nurse said cheerfully. My mother walked toward me with that determined look she got when she wanted something. She was dressed in her usual style, coordinated outfit, tasteful jewelry, perfect hair. She smiled at me like everything was normal. Valerie, honey, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. She was never in the neighborhood. The hospital was 30 minutes from her house. I'm working, Mom. I know. But we've been trying to reach you. Why haven't you returned our calls? I've been busy, I laughed, that light, dismissive laugh that made me feel small. Busy? We're all busy, sweetheart. But family is important. Your father and I would really love to see your new apartment. How about this weekend? I looked at her standing there in the middle of my workplace, asking for the exact thing she had refused when I asked her first, the thing I had wanted so badly just a few days ago. This weekend doesn't work for me, I said. Her smile faltered. Oh, well, when would be good? I'll let you know. I turned back to my computer, and after a moment, I heard her walk away. My mother wasn't the only one who wouldn't give up. Over the next week, my entire family launched a coordinated campaign to get an invitation to my apartment. Bethany started texting me real estate advice I never asked for. You should consider refinishing the floors. It adds value. I can recommend someone. And have you thought about the resale potential? Location is everything. Trevor sent me links to furniture stores and home decor websites. Thought you might need this for your new place. My father, who normally communicated with me about twice a year, suddenly started calling every other day. Your mother is worried about you. Just give her a call. Janine, my cousin, reached out with suspicious enthusiasm. I saw your post. The apartment looks amazing. I'd love to see it in person. Are you free next weekend? They were all so transparent, and none of them acknowledged the real issue. None of them mentioned that they had all turned me down. None of them apologized or even seemed to recognize why I might be upset. They just wanted access to what they now realized was worth their attention. I kept ignoring them. At work, my colleague Denise noticed my mood. We were restocking supplies together when she asked, "You okay? You seem distracted." Denise was one of the few people who knew my family history. We had worked together for 6 years, and over countless night shifts, I had shared enough for her to understand the dynamics. My family won't stop calling me, I said. About the apartment? Yes, they all said no when I invited them. Now they won't leave me alone. Denise shook her head. Let me guess. They saw your social media post. That's all it took. One picture, and suddenly everyone wants to visit. So, what are you going to do? I had been asking myself that same question. Part of me wanted to give in, to let them come over and see the apartment and move on with our lives. But a bigger part of me felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. Anger. Real, deep anger. At years of being overlooked and dismissed. I don't know yet, I told Denise, but I'm not ready to just forgive and forget. Good, she said firmly. Don't let them off easy. That Saturday, I had the day off. I spent the morning arranging my bookshelves and hanging pictures on the walls. My apartment was really coming together. Every corner reflected my taste, my choices, my hard work. It felt good. Around noon, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and felt my chest tighten. Bethany stood in the hallway holding a bottle of wine and wearing her professional smile. I considered not answering, but she rang the bell again. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Surprise, Bethany said brightly. I was showing a property nearby and thought I'd drop by. How did you get my address? Mom gave it to me. Can I come in? I brought wine. I didn't invite you. Her smile flickered. Valerie, come on. Don't be like this. I want to see your new place. Mom said you've been avoiding everyone. I wonder why. Look, I'm sorry I couldn't make it to your housewarming. I really did have a client meeting, but I'm here now. Can't we just move past this? There it was. The casual dismissal of my feelings wrapped up in a pretty apology that wasn't really an apology at all. No, I said. No. You didn't want to come when it mattered to me. So, I don't really care that you want to come now. Bethany's professional mask cracked. Are you seriously going to hold a grudge over this? It's just an apartment, Valerie. It's not that big a deal. Exactly, I said. It's just an apartment, so you shouldn't mind missing out on seeing it. I started to close the door, but Bethany put her hand against it. Wait, just wait. I know we haven't always been close, but we're sisters. Can't we at least try? I looked at her, standing there in her expensive blazer with her expensive wine, and wondered if she had any idea what she was asking. She wanted me to just let her in, literally and figuratively. Without acknowledging the years of being second place. Without admitting that she had always seen me as less important, less interesting, less worth her time. You want to know something? I said quietly. I worked 8 years for this apartment. 8 years of double shifts and holidays and exhaustion. And when I finally bought it, the first thing I wanted was to share it with my family. That's all I wanted. Just a few hours of your time to celebrate something I was proud of. I said, I'm sorry. No, you said you had a client meeting. That's not the same thing. Bethany's expression hardened. You know what? Fine, be petty, but don't come crying to us when you need something. I haven't needed you for anything in years, I said. I think I'll manage. I closed the door. My hands were shaking. I walked to my window and looked out at the view that had started all of this. The city stretched out below me, indifferent to my family drama, indifferent to my hurt feelings. Just buildings, streets, and lives being lived. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. Bethany told me what happened. This is unacceptable. You need to apologize to your sister. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Bethany's number. I blocked Trevor's number. I even blocked my father's number. I set my phone down and felt something shift inside me. For 35 years, I had waited for my family to see me, to value me, to make me feel like I mattered. And they never did. Maybe it was time to stop waiting. Maybe it was time to build a life where I didn't need their approval at all. The silence that followed blocking my family was both terrifying and liberating. For the first 2 days, I kept checking my phone, half expecting to find a way around the block. Some emergency that would force me to respond. But nothing came. Just blessed, peaceful silence. Work became my refuge. I picked up extra shifts again, not because I needed the money anymore, but because I needed the distraction. The hospital was the one place where I felt competent, valued, necessary. Patients didn't care about family drama. They just needed someone who showed up and did the job well. It was during a particularly long Thursday shift that everything started to unravel in ways I hadn't anticipated. I was checking on a patient in room 312 when I heard familiar voices at the nurse's station. My stomach dropped before my brain even processed who it was. My mother and Bethany were talking to the charge nurse. I stepped back into the patient's room, hoping they hadn't seen me. Through the partially open door, I could hear their conversation. "We're very worried about her," my mother was saying in that concerned voice she used when she wanted sympathy. "She's been acting strange, blocking our calls. We just want to make sure she's okay." "I can have someone check if she's available," the charge nurse offered. No, we'll wait. We brought her favorite lunch. She's been working so hard." My favorite lunch. They didn't even know what my favorite lunch was. I hadn't eaten with them in months, maybe longer. I stayed in that patient's room for 20 minutes, pretending to adjust 4 lines and check monitors. When I finally emerged, my mother and Bethany were sitting in the waiting area with a bag from an expensive deli I had never been to. I had 2 choices, confront them or hide in the supply closet until they left. I chose confrontation. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice low. We were in a hospital, after all. My mother stood immediately, her face brightening with manufactured relief. "Valerie, there you are. We've been so worried. You blocked our numbers." "Yes, I did." "Why would you do that? We're your family. You came to my workplace. This is inappropriate." Bethany stood up, her expression somewhere between annoyed and embarrassed. Several other staff members were watching now, and I could tell she didn't like the audience. "We just wanted to talk to you. You won't answer our calls or texts." "Because I don't want to talk to you." My mother reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "Valerie, please, let's be reasonable about this. Whatever we did to upset you, we can fix it. Just talk to us. You want to know what you did?" My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You dismissed me, all of you. You couldn't take one afternoon to see my apartment when I invited you. But now that you've seen it's actually nice, you won't leave me alone. You don't get to decide when I'm worth your time." "We've apologized for that," Bethany said, her real estate agent voice slipping into that condescending tone she used with difficult clients. "How many times do we have to say we're sorry? You're being childish." "Childish? I'm being childish?" "Yes," Bethany said firmly. "You're throwing a tantrum because we were busy one weekend. Grow up." The charge nurse stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable with the scene developing in the middle of the floor. "Maybe this conversation should happen somewhere private." My mother ignored her. "Valerie, we love you. We want to be part of your life, but you have to meet us halfway. We made a mistake, and we're trying to make it right. What more do you want?" That question hung in the air between us. What did I want? I wanted them to have shown up when I asked. I wanted them to have cared about my accomplishments without needing social media to tell them it was impressive. I wanted 35 years of being invisible to not have happened. But I couldn't say any of that. Not here, not now, not in front of my colleagues and patients. "I want you to leave," I said quietly. "I'm at work. This is unprofessional, and you're putting me in an impossible position." "We're not leaving until you agree to talk to us properly," my mother said, and I saw the steel beneath her concerned parent act. "We'll wait as long as we need to." The charge nurse touched my shoulder gently. "Valerie, why don't you take your break? Use the conference room. 10 minutes. It wasn't really a suggestion. She was trying to help me manage the situation before it got worse. But I felt trapped. I couldn't make a bigger scene, and I couldn't leave them sitting in the waiting area all day. "Fine," I said. 10 minutes. We walked to the small conference room in silence. Once inside, my mother and Bethany sat down like we were about to have a pleasant family meeting. I remained standing. "Talk," I said. My mother pulled out a chair for me. "Sit down, honey. You've been on your feet all day." "I'm fine standing." "You have 10 minutes. Bethany sighed dramatically. "This is ridiculous. We're here because we care about you, and you're treating us like we're the enemy. You showed up at my job and ambushed me." "We had to," my mother said. "You blocked us. What else were we supposed to do?" "Respect my decision." "Your decision to cut off your entire family?" Bethany leaned forward. "Over what? Over us being busy one weekend? Do you even hear yourself?" I felt my hands clench into fists. "It's not about one weekend. It's about every weekend. Every graduation, every achievement, every time I needed you and you weren't there. That's not fair, my mother protested. We've always been there for you. No, you haven't. You've been there for Bethy's open houses and Trevor's golf tournaments and Dad's office parties. But when I graduated nursing school, you threw me a dinner at a chain restaurant. When I paid off my student loans, nobody even said congratulations. We did say congratulations, Bethany interjected. Did you? Because I don't remember it. My mother's face was flushed now, and I could see her struggling to maintain her composure. We've done our best with all three of you. If you felt neglected, I'm sorry, but you need to understand that we had limited time and resources. We made choices we thought were right. You chose them over me every time. That's not true. Then prove it, I said. And even as the words came out, I knew I was making a mistake. Tell me one thing about my life right now. One thing about what matters to me, what I care about, what I do when I'm not at work. Tell me anything that shows you actually know who I am. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Bethany for help. Bethany shrugged. You work at the hospital. You just bought an apartment. That's it. That's all you know about me? Well, you're not exactly an open book, Bethany said defensively. You never share anything with us. Because you never ask. My mother stood up, her voice tight. This isn't productive. We came here to reconcile, not to be attacked. I'm not attacking you. I'm telling you the truth. Your truth, she corrected. Your version of things. There are 3 sides to every story, Valerie. Then tell me yours. But she didn't. She just gathered her purse and looked at Bethany. We should go. She's clearly not in a place where she can have a rational conversation. They walked out, leaving the expensive deli bag on the table. I sat down heavily in one of the chairs and put my head in my hands. The door opened, and Denise poked her head in. You okay? No. She came in and sat beside me. That looked rough. They don't get it. They're never going to get it. Maybe not, Denise said gently. But that doesn't mean you were wrong. That evening, I came home to find my brother Trevor waiting in the lobby of my building. He stood up when he saw me holding a coffee cup and looking uncomfortable. How did you get in here? I asked, already knowing the answer. The building had a buzzer system, but some residents were careless about letting people in. Someone held the door for me. Look, I know you don't want to see any of us right now, but I really need to talk to you. I'm tired, Trevor. It's been a long day. Just 5 minutes, please. Against my better judgment, I let him follow me upstairs. When I unlocked my apartment door, I saw his eyes widen as he took in the space. Wow, he said quietly. This is really nice, Val. No one had called me Val since high school. I didn't invite him to sit down. Say what you came to say. Trevor walked to the window, looking out at the view that had caused all this trouble. I get why you're mad. I do. Mom and Bethany came to see me after they left the hospital and they told me what happened. I'm sure they gave you their version. They did, but I also know them and I know you, and I wanted to hear your side. That surprised me. Trevor had never been particularly insightful about family dynamics. He usually went along with whatever kept the peace. Why? I asked. He turned back to face me. Because I've been thinking about it, and you're right. We haven't been great to you. I haven't been great to you. I waited, suspicious of where this was going. When I got engaged, you helped plan my bachelor party. You spent weeks organizing it, and it was perfect. But when you graduated nursing school, I didn't even show up to the ceremony. I was golfing. I remember. And last year when you texted me about paying off your loans, I just sent back a thumbs up emoji. I didn't even call you. No, you didn't. He sat down on my new couch without asking, looking tired. The thing is, I think I always just assumed you'd be okay. You're the responsible one, the one who has her life together. You don't need the same attention that Bethany needs or the same encouragement that I need. You just handle things. So, you took me for granted? Yeah, I guess I did. It was the most honest thing any member of my family had said to me in years, and I didn't know how to respond. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Mom called me crying after the hospital thing. She said you accused her of not knowing anything about you. And when she tried to think of something, she couldn't. And that scared her. It should scare her. It scared me, too. Because I realized I couldn't answer that question either. I don't really know you, Val. Not anymore. Maybe I never did. I felt tears prickling at my eyes, but I blinked them back. So, what now? You apologize. I forgive everyone. And we go back to how things were. God, I hope not, Trevor said. Because how things were wasn't good. At least not for you. I sat down in the chair across from him. Then what do you want? I want to understand. Help me understand what the last 8 years have been like for you. What it took to get here. So I told him. I told him about the double shifts and the exhaustion. I told him about picking up Christmas Day shifts every year so I could save the holiday pay differential. I told him about living in that terrible studio with the broken heater and the landlord who never fixed anything. I told him about eating ramen and rice for months at a time. I told him about the spreadsheet I kept, tracking every penny, calculating how long it would take to save enough for a down payment. Trevor listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. I had no idea, he finally said. Because you never asked. You're right. But also, you never told us. You never said you were struggling or that you needed help or that things were hard. Would you have listened? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. I didn't want your help, I said. I wanted your acknowledgement. I wanted you to notice that I was working towards something. I wanted someone in this family to be proud of me without me having to beg for it. I am proud of you. Looking at this place, knowing what it took to get here. I'm really proud of you, Val. 8 years too late. I know. And I can't change that. But I can try to be better going forward if you'll let me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that this conversation was real, that his understanding was genuine. But I had been disappointed by my family too many times to trust it easily. Trevor, why did you really come here? Did Mom send you? He had the decency to look embarrassed. She asked me to talk to you. Yeah, but not for the reasons you think. She's genuinely upset, Val. So is Dad. They're realizing that they might actually lose you, and it's freaking them out. They should have thought of that before. You're right. But people don't always think about consequences until they're facing them. You blocking everyone, refusing to see us. It's making them understand how serious this is. Good. Is it? Trevor leaned forward. Because I'm not sure what your endgame is here. Are you cutting us off forever? Are you waiting for some grand gesture? What do you actually want to happen? It was a fair question and I didn't have a good answer. I don't know, I admitted. I just know I'm tired of being the one who always bends. I'm tired of being understanding and flexible and forgiving while everyone else just does whatever they want. Then don't bend. Make us work for it. Make us prove we can do better. And if you can't, if this is just temporary guilt and in a month everything goes back to normal, then you'll know and you can make your decision with full information. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Outside my window, the city lights were beginning to glow as dusk settled over Portland. I'm not ready to see everyone yet, I said finally. I'm still too angry. That's fair. But will you at least unblock my number so I can check in on you? Not for them, just for me. I considered it. Maybe. But if you start acting as their messenger, you're getting blocked again. Deal. He stood up to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, this apartment is incredible. You should be proud of yourself, Val. I know I would be. After he left, I sat in my chair and looked around at my space. The conversation with Trevor had stirred up feelings I had been trying to avoid. Part of me wanted to believe that things could change, that my family could actually learn to treat me differently. But another part of me, the part that had been hurt too many times, knew better than to hope. My phone buzzed. I had unblocked Trevor's number, and he had sent a text. Thanks for talking to me. I meant what I said. I didn't respond, but I didn't block him again either. 2 weeks passed, and I settled into a routine that didn't include my family. I worked. I came home. I enjoyed my apartment. I started taking yoga classes on Tuesday evenings. I joined a book club at the library. I went to happy hour with Denise and some other nurses from the hospital. I built a life that was entirely my own, and it felt good. Trevor texted me occasionally, but true to his word, he never mentioned our parents or Bethany. He just sent casual messages about his day or asked about mine. I responded sometimes, keeping things light. Then, 3 weeks after the hospital confrontation, something happened that changed everything. I was at the grocery store on a Saturday morning when I ran into Janine, my cousin. I hadn't seen her since before I bought the apartment, and I tried to walk the other way, but she spotted me. Valerie, wait. She hurried over, her expression urgent. I'm so glad I ran into you. I've been wanting to talk to you, but you blocked everyone. There was a reason for that. I know. And I don't blame you, but there's something you need to know. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for telling you. But I think you deserve to hear it. I felt a prickle of unease. What are you talking about? Janine glanced around as if checking to see if anyone was listening. Can we talk somewhere private? This isn't a quick conversation. Against my better judgment, I followed her to the coffee shop next door. We sat in a corner booth, and Janine ordered 2 coffees before turning to face me. I need you to understand something first, she said. I'm not telling you this to cause drama or to take sides. I'm telling you because it's the right thing to do and because I care about you. Janine, what is going on? She took a deep breath. Your mom and Bethany have been talking about your apartment a lot. And not in a nice way. Okay. They're obsessed with it. Your mom told everyone at her book club about how you're living in some fancy high-rise, making it sound like you won the lottery or something. But when I talked to her privately, she said something that really bothered me. What did she say? She said they need to get back in your good graces because they want you to list Bethany as your real estate agent when you sell. She said it's a prime property and Bethany could make a good commission off it. I felt my stomach drop. What? That's not even the worst part. Your dad has been asking Trevor questions about your finances, how much you make, whether you had help buying the place, if you have a mortgage. Trevor said no at first, but your dad kept pushing. Why? Janine hesitated. I think they're trying to figure out if you have money. Your mom made some comment about how if you could afford that apartment, you could afford to help them out with some things. Help them out with what? I don't know exactly, but your mom mentioned that they're having some financial problems. Something about their investments not doing well. She didn't go into detail, but I got the impression it's serious. I sat back, trying to process what I was hearing. So they don't actually care about fixing our relationship. They want something from me. I think it started as curiosity, but yeah, it's definitely turned into something else. Bethany has been telling people she's going to list your apartment when you're ready to upgrade. She's already calculated her potential commission. Are you serious? I wouldn't make this up. I thought about not telling you because I know how much it's going to hurt, but you deserve to know what you're dealing with. I felt numb. Part of me had suspected that my family's sudden interest wasn't genuine, but having it confirmed was still devastating. There's one more thing, Janine said quietly. Your mom has been telling people that you're being selfish and cruel, refusing to see your family over a simple misunderstanding. She's painting herself as the victim, and a lot of people believe her because they don't know the full story. Of course, she is. I've been defending you when I can, but you know how your mom is. She's very convincing when she wants to be. We sat in silence for a moment. My coffee had gone cold, and I hadn't even taken a sip. Why are you telling me all this? I asked. You've always been closer to my mom than to me. Because I've watched how they treat you for years, and I've always felt bad about not saying something. When you posted that picture of your apartment, I saw how beautiful it was, and I was genuinely happy for you. But then I watched your family's reaction, and it made me sick. They didn't care about your accomplishment. They only cared about what it meant for them. Thank you for telling me, I said. Really? I know it wasn't easy. What are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? I had been waiting for my family to prove they couldn't change. And here was the proof delivered on a silver platter. I don't know yet, I said, but I'm not going to let them use me. Good. And Valerie, for what it's worth, I think you've handled this with a lot more grace than I would have. They don't deserve your forgiveness. After Janine left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, thinking about everything she had told me. The betrayal hurt, but it also crystallized something for me. I had been holding on to a small hope that my family would wake up and realize what they had done, that they would genuinely want to repair our relationship. But that hope was based on the family I wished I had, not the family I actually had. My real family saw me as a resource, not a person. They saw my apartment as an opportunity, not an achievement. And when I set boundaries, they didn't respect them. They just looked for ways around them. I pulled out my phone and looked at the blocked numbers. With a few taps, I unblocked them all. Not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I wanted to see what they would do next. I wanted to watch them reveal themselves completely. And I was going to make sure that when they did, there would be consequences. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing. Messages from my mother, from Bethany, from my father, all variations of the same theme. Relief that I had unblocked them, requests to talk, invitations to dinner. I responded to none of them. Instead, I opened a new note on my phone and started writing down everything I knew, every promise they had broken, every achievement they had dismissed, every time they had chosen someone else over me. And now, their plan to use my apartment for Bethany's commission, and their financial problems. If they wanted to play games, I would play, but I would play to win. I spent the next week preparing. If my family wanted access to my life, to my apartment, to whatever financial help they thought I could provide, they were going to have to earn it. But more importantly, they were going to have to show everyone who they really were. The first step was accepting their invitation to Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My mother nearly cried with relief when I called her back. Oh, Valerie, I'm so glad you're ready to talk. We've missed you so much. I've been thinking about what you all said, I told her, keeping my voice neutral. Maybe I was being too harsh. Family is important. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I've been saying. Come to dinner on Sunday. Your father will make his special ribs. It'll be just like old times. Just like old times. That was exactly what I was counting on. Sunday arrived, and I drove to my parents' house in the suburbs. The familiar tree-lined street, the perfectly manicured lawn, the house that had never quite felt like home. I sat in my car for a moment, steeling myself. When I walked in, everyone was already there, my parents, Bethany, Trevor. They all turned to look at me, and I saw relief on their faces mixed with something else. Calculation, Valerie.my mother hugged me tightly, longer than necessary. I'm so glad you came. We've been so worried about you. Mom. My father stood up from his chair, giving me an awkward pat on the shoulder. Good to see you, kiddo. How have you been? Busy with work. Bethany approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm glad we can all move past this misunderstanding. Family is too important to let grudges get in the way. I noticed she didn't apologize. None of them did. They just acted as if my anger had been an overreaction that I was now thankfully over. We sat down to dinner. And for the first 30 minutes, they kept the conversation light, the weather, local news, Trevor's new golf clubs. No one mentioned my apartment or the fact that I had blocked them all for weeks. Then, as we were clearing the table, my mother made her move. Valerie, honey, I was thinking, since you're settling into your new place, maybe we could all come visit next weekend. I'd love to see what you've done with it. I'd love that, I said easily. Actually, I was thinking of having a bigger housewarming party. Invite some friends, colleagues from the hospital, maybe some neighbors. My mother's smile faltered slightly. Oh, well, that sounds nice, but I was thinking more of a family thing, just us. Why not both? I suggested. A proper party would be fun. I could show everyone the place at once. Bethany jumped in. That's a great idea. And you know, Val, I've been thinking that building you're in has excellent resale potential. When you're ready to upgrade, I'd be happy to handle the listing for you. Family discount, of course. There it was. Exactly what Janine had said. Upgrade? I asked innocently. I just bought the place. Of course. I just mean eventually. It's never too early to think about your investment strategy. That's a hot property, and I could get you top dollar when the time comes. I'll keep that in mind. My father cleared his throat. You know, Valerie, I've been curious. That apartment must have cost a pretty penny. How did you manage the down payment? I saved, I said simply. On a nurse's salary? That's impressive. Very impressive. You must have quite a nest egg built up. I saw where this was going. Okay. The thing is, my father continued, your mother and I have been having some financial difficulties. Nothing major, but our investments haven't performed as well as we'd hoped. We're getting older, and we need to think about retirement. We were wondering if you might be in a position to help out a bit, just temporarily, of course. And there it was, the real reason for the reconciliation. How much are we talking about? I asked. My parents exchanged glances. Maybe $20,000 to start, just to get us back on solid ground. $20,000. More than a quarter of what I had saved for my down payment. Money that represented years of sacrifice. That's a lot of money, I said. We're family, my mother said, reaching across to pat my hand. We've always been there for you, and now we need you to be there for us. Always been there for me. The lie was so blatant, I almost laughed. Let me think about it, I said. It's a big decision. Of course. We understand, but we'd appreciate an answer soon. The situation is becoming rather urgent. Trevor had been quiet through most of dinner, but now he looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. He knew something was wrong. He might not know exactly what I was planning, but he sensed it. After dinner, as I was leaving, he followed me out to my car. Val, what are you doing? What do you mean? You're planning something. I can tell. I looked at him for a long moment. Do you know what they asked me in there? I heard. And it's messed up. They shouldn't have asked you for money, especially not after everything that's happened. But you didn't say anything. He looked down. No, I didn't. That's what I thought. I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the driveway. The next Saturday, I hosted my housewarming party. I invited everyone, my family, colleagues from the hospital, neighbors from my building, friends from yoga and book club, even Janine and some extended family members. 50 people in total, all gathered in my apartment and spilling out into the hallway. I had spent days preparing, not just food and drinks, but something else, something my family had no idea was coming. They arrived early, my parents and Bethany. Trevor came separately, still looking uneasy. They moved through my apartment with proprietary interest, my mother commenting on the furniture placement, my father examining the view, and Bethany taking notes on her phone about the building's amenities. This really is a prime property, Bethany said loudly enough for others to hear. Great bones, excellent location. I'm so proud of my sister for making such a smart investment. My sister. Suddenly, I was her sister again, now that there was something in it for her. As more guests arrived, I played the perfect hostess. I introduced my family to my colleagues, to my neighbors, to everyone. I made sure everyone knew who they were. "This is my mother, who taught me the importance of hard work," I said, watching her pin. "And my sister Bethany, who's a successful real estate agent, and my father, who always had such high standards." Around 7 p.m., when everyone had arrived and the party was in full swing, I called for everyone's attention. I stood by my window, the city lights glowing behind me, and raised my glass. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "This apartment means everything to me, and I wanted to share it with the people in my life." My mother beamed. Bethany nodded approvingly. "I've been thinking a lot lately about how I got here," I continued, "about the journey it took to buy this place. And I realized that my story might resonate with some of you." I saw Trevor stiffen. He knew something was coming. 8 years ago, I was living in a studio apartment with mold in the bathroom and a heater that only worked half the time. I was working double shifts at the hospital, picking up every holiday, every weekend, every overtime opportunity one could find. I ate ramen noodles for dinner more nights than I care to count. I wore scrubs that I had mended 3 times over. I drove a car that broke down regularly. The room had gone quiet. My colleagues nodded, recognizing their own struggles. "I did all of this alone," I said. "I didn't have family money to help with the down payment. I didn't have connections to get me a better job. I just had myself and my determination to build something better." My mother's smile was starting to fade. She sensed where this was going. "When I finally bought this place, the first thing I wanted to do was share it with my family. I invited them to a housewarming party. Every single one of them said no. They were too busy. They had other commitments, more important things to do." I saw several people glance at my parents and siblings, their expressions shifting. But then I posted one picture on social media, one photo of this view, and suddenly they weren't too busy anymore. Suddenly, family was important. Suddenly, they wanted to see my apartment to be part of my success. "Valerie," my mother said sharply. "This isn't appropriate." "Why not?" I asked. "You wanted to be here. You wanted to be part of this. So, let me tell everyone the whole story." I turned back to my guests. 2 weeks ago, my parents asked me for $20,000. They said they were having financial difficulties and needed help. When I hesitated, they reminded me that family helps family. That they've always been there for me. The room was completely silent now. But here's the thing about that statement. They weren't there when I graduated nursing school. They weren't there when I paid off my student loans. They weren't there for any of the achievements that mattered to me. They were only there when they needed something. My father stood up, his face red. "That's enough. You're embarrassing yourself." "No, I'm telling the truth. And the truth is that you and Mom don't see me as a daughter. You see me as a resource. Bethany doesn't see me as a sister. She sees me as a future commission when I sell this place." Bethany's mouth dropped open. "How dare you?" "I dare because it's true. Janine heard you talking about it, about how you've already calculated your commission, how you're going to list this apartment when I'm ready to upgrade." Several people gasped. Janine, standing near the back, nodded confirmation. "You don't love me," I said, and my voice broke slightly despite my efforts to stay strong. "You never did. You love what I can do for you. And I'm done pretending that's enough." My mother was crying now, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. "How dare you humiliate us like this in front of all these people? You ungrateful." I laughed, and it came out bitter. "For what? For raising me? That's what parents are supposed to do. You don't get extra credit for the bare minimum. We paid for your education." My father shouted. "No, you didn't. I had scholarships and loans. You paid for Bethany's college and Trevor's car. I got a $50 gift card and a lecture about responsibility." The truth hung in the air, undeniable and ugly. My family stood there exposed in front of 50 witnesses. My mother's face was red with fury and humiliation. Bethany looked like she wanted to disappear. My father couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Only Trevor remained still, watching me with an expression that might have been respect. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "All of you." "Gladly," Bethany snapped. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. My parents followed, my mother pausing only to hiss at me, "You'll regret this." "No," I said. "I really won't." Trevor lingered for a moment. "Val, go with them, Trevor. You made your choice by staying silent." He opened his mouth as if to argue, then closed it and walked out. After they left, the party was subdued for a few minutes. Then Denise came over and hugged me tightly. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," she whispered. One by one. Other people approached, colleagues who had worked through similar struggles. Neighbors who understood family dysfunction. People who had their own stories of being undervalued and overlooked. "My parents did the same thing to me," one of the nurses said. "Only cared when they needed money. I cut off my sister 3 years ago, a neighbor admitted. Best decision I ever made. The party eventually resumed, and it turned into something better than I had planned. It became a celebration not just of my apartment, but of boundaries and self-respect, and choosing yourself when no one else will. Around midnight, after everyone had left except Denise, she helped me clean up. So what happens now? She asked. Now I live my life, I said. Without them. They'll try to come back. People like that always do. Let them try. I meant what I said. I'm done. My phone had been buzzing all evening. Messages from extended family members, some supportive, most confused or angry. My aunt texted, "How could you embarrass your parents like that?" I blocked her. My mother left a voicemail. "You are no longer part of this family. Don't ever contact us again." I saved it just in case I ever doubted my decision. Bethany sent a long text about how I had ruined her reputation. How she would never forgive me, how I was a selfish person who would die alone. I forwarded it to several people who had been at the party, letting her words speak for themselves. Only Trevor's message was different. "I understand why you did it. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to stand with you." I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would, but not yet. The wound was too fresh, and his silence had hurt almost as much as my parents' betrayal. Over the following months, I watched my family face the consequences of their behavior. Word spread quickly through our extended family and their social circle. My mother's friends at the country club heard about the party, about the demands for money, about Bethany's calculated plan to profit from my apartment. Their reputation suffered, invitations stopped coming. My mother's book club disbanded after several members sided with me, refusing to associate with someone who had treated her daughter so callously. Bethany's real estate business took a hit when several potential clients heard about her behavior and chose different agents. She tried to spin the story to paint me as a vindictive liar. But too many people had witnessed the truth. My father's accounting firm lost 2 major clients who were uncomfortable working with someone whose family values were so questionable. They had to sell their house in the suburbs and downsize to a small condo. I felt no sympathy. They had made their choices, and choices have consequences. As for me, I stood in my apartment 1 year later, looking out at the same view that had started everything. The city lights glowed against the night sky, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I had built this life alone, without my family's support or approval, and that made it entirely mine. The isolation I had feared never came. Instead, I found a chosen family in my colleagues. My neighbors, my book club friends, people who showed up when they said they would. Who celebrated my achievements without needing to be convinced they mattered, who valued me for who I was. Not what I could do for them. I didn't regret exposing my family at that party. Some might call it petty or cruel, but I call it necessary. They had spent 35 years treating me as invisible, as less than, as someone who existed only to serve their needs. And when I finally set boundaries, they proved exactly who they were. The revenge wasn't just in the public humiliation. It was in choosing myself, in building a life so complete and fulfilling that their absence became a blessing rather than a loss. I had waited so long for my family to see me, to value me, to love me the way I deserved. And in the end, I realized the only person who needed to see my worth was me.